Hey everybody, it's Jake, and I am alone in the basement. This is the second part of my double duty today. I get to interview one of the fastest rising tag teams, at least in the Northeast of independent wrestling. I am talking with the Stepdads. These guys, if you have IWTV, you've seen them on Pizza Party Wrestling. They wrestle around here for New York Championship Wrestling in the Central New York area. Then they wrestle like a lot of the people this week for Truly Independent Wrestling out of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. If it's anywhere in like the New York, Western Mass, Jersey area, probably Pennsylvania too. These guys are everywhere. It's hard to literally keep track of where they're going, but they are one of the most fun tag teams that are going today. They're super unique, and it's just something you got to see. They have a YouTube page, which I'll also plug at the end, but literally just search Stepdads Wrestling on YouTube, and it's not going to take you long to get hooked. So at this point, if you don't know the routine, I'll let you know. Stick through the ad which is about like 2 minutes, or skip ahead of it. It don't matter. And then when we get back from the other side of that, I will be interviewing the Stepdads. Stick around, guys. Hey everybody, it's Jake here from Alone in the Basement with Chris and Tyler. Right now we want to talk to you about Anchor, which is what you're either listening to this podcast through or you're on Spotify. We'll get to that in a second. But Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone. Everything. Woo! Right from your phone or computer. There's creation tools which allow you to record and edit your podcast so it can all sound as great as you want it to. For us, we love crappy audio, so it's probably going to sound really awful.
The worst.
They will also distribute your podcast for you for free so it can be heard anywhere, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, more.
Distribution!
So if you're listening to us on Spotify, that's why, because they moved us around. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership by doing ads like this one we're doing right now so we can get paid.
Money!
Woo! So download the Anchor app in the Apple Store, or was it Google Play Store?
Google Play Store.
I don't have an Android because I'm a real person.
Word.
So, so you can either use the Anchor app or just go to anchor.fm to get started. And we hope you keep listening to us and support Anchor because they're, I guess, supporting us without realizing it.
They are the best thing ever. Ever!
All right, everybody, I'm back and I'm here with the Stepdads. What's going on, guys?
That's us.
Yeah, that's us.
What's up?
It's Radley, Belmont, and Wade Krueger. I probably should have said that before I threw it to them. But what's going on, guys?
That's all right.
Nothing. We're just learning about Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that a normal stepdad
it's
thing?
It's not that exciting. It was pretty much covered in the Jesse Eisenberg movie, but that movie didn't cover how to turn off notification sounds. There's one fatal flaw in the movie. Rotten Tomatoes, fresh, but they got to work on it.
There should be some added criticisms now before we're done.
Well, I mean, at least throw it in the credits, right?
Why not, right? All right, guys, I'm gonna get right into it with you because I've never done a podcast with two people. I'm a little intimidated, but I think we'll get through it.
Whoa. Don't worry. Just like all of our opponents, you have no reason to be intimidated.
Exactly.
Such a way to put it. All right, so how did you guys get into watching wrestling? Was it something that maybe one of you has liked since they were a kid, or one of you found it in high school? Or was there like a certain match, angle, or like legendary moment that hooked you guys into wrestling?
Well, I'll start since I think I have the longer history with wrestling. But as far as I can remember, my parents, when I was, I must have been like 4 or 5. My parents gave me a VHS tape of Clash of the Champions 1 from 1988. And this is many years later. But I must have watched the entire tape. I don't really remember the other matches, but I do remember watching Ric Flair versus Sting for the NWA titles, 45-minute draw, and it blew my mind. And that's got to be like the oldest memory I have. That and Optimus Prime dying in the spoiler alert, by the way. Optimus Prime dies in Transformers the movie, but he comes back in the TV series, so it's okay. But that's the oldest memory I have, and I have videotapes of myself, even younger than that, doing the Ultimate Warrior Gorilla Press Slam and double stomp to my Tigger, my stuffed Tigger. So I may have also invented the double stomp when I was 2 or 3. Just throwing that out there.
Mine is less specific. I remember watching wrestling when I was younger. My dad was always a fan, so he got me into it. And Saturday, especially on Saturdays, because I'd be home from school, so I'd watch WCW on Saturdays, and then we'd go to West Coast Video. I want to say was the video store we used to go to, West Coast Video, and then my parents would always let me rent something, and I would always go over to if there wasn't a movie I was interested specifically, I would always go over to the rack of VHS tapes of like pay-per-views and rent stuff. So I was always watching different old stuff. I remember watching one of my earliest memories is Brett versus Lawler in the Kiss My Foot match, which is not like a good starting point, but there it is. And then I got out of I watched wrestling a lot through the Monday Night Wars. Both sides. I loved watching both sides. Usually I'd watch the early half of WCW and the later half of WWF because that was the more entertaining way to do it.
You did it the correct way.
And then I got out of it for a long time, and then I got back into it in high school when I had friends who watched, and we would go and once we could all drive, like junior, senior year, we would all go to one friend's house and watch pay-per-views, and then all carpool into school the next day on Monday morning. So shout out to JP and Theo and all those dudes who got me back into wrestling. Adam Felabrigo, those are my dudes. Without them, I wouldn't have got back into wrestling. Actually, Adam specifically was the one who got me into TNA, and then TNA got me into ROH because Joe and AJ and those guys were there. And then I started doing the indie stuff, and that was how I got into wrestling again, seriously.
Yeah, my introduction to TNA was weird. All right, so I grew up. All right, so I said I watched Clash of Champions 1. Maybe it's just my family, but I grew up just watching WCW. That's all I knew was just WCW, which people think is crazy. So before the Monday Night Wars ended, all I knew was the only WWF stuff I'd seen was Raw's Owen and WrestleMania 15 and whatever I saw randomly on Jacked. When The Undertaker was sacrificing someone, I probably saw it on Jacked, but that was about it.
That's the first Jacked reference I've ever had on the show. I feel like most people don't even remember.
I was definitely one of the 12 people watching Jacked at midnight or whenever.
I never watched Jacked, but I do remember Shotgun Saturday Night.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. That one, too.
I'm trying to remember if in my area it was Jacked or Metal, but I was also one of the 7 to 14 people who would be up middle of the night to catch the syndicated shitty jobber matches.
I remember watching Pillman fuck up fans on Saturday Shotgun Saturday Night.
Oh, man.
That was when he was fully insane and doing promos with a pencil. He'd pull fans out of the crowd and beat the shit out of them.
but so my parents were like, you can't watch WWF, you can't watch that smut. So it was for me, it was it's my secret thing. I'd go to my living room at midnight, turn the volume just a little bit up, and watch Steve Austin fight the Undertaker for 3 minutes.
Meanwhile, my dad was taking me to MSG shows at SummerSlam. So,
but so my parents didn't want me to watch that terrible WWF. But they would make me sit there and watch Vince Russo era Nitro.
This is sorry to ask questions on your podcast, but Red, did WCW actually run out in that? They ran out in that area in your area.
Halloween Havoc was in Vegas every year.
I think it might be an area thing because WCW never ran up here. They never ran shows up here.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to go to a WCW show because I couldn't.
Yes.
It was like when they used to show commercials for Sonic, but Sonic wasn't in the state yet.
Right. But I watched Halloween Havoc 98. It took place in Vegas. I was probably 20 minutes from the arena, and I still had to watch it on pay-per-view. That's one of the biggest regrets of my life. I never got to see WCW in person, but that was the night that the pay-per-view cut out early, and I immediately was like, why didn't I just go to the arena? I need to know Goldberg beat DDP. I need to know.
In retrospect, how good would it have been for you to be there for the Hogan Warrior match?
Oh, and I was such a Warrior fan as a kid that but yeah, I remember even as a kid being like, "What is happening? What is going on in this thing?" But to WCW's credit, they did send me a Sting shirt, so I guess all is well. But so WCW ended. I finally got into WWE because that's all that was left. And I want you to imagine a world, because this was me. This was my life, where Hulk Hogan came out to Real American on July 1st, or July 4th, for that SmackDown. That he teamed with Edge and won the tag team belts. He comes out to Real American for the first time in years, and I'm sitting there going, "Why is he coming out the Pat Patterson's theme song?"
Oh yeah,
because I didn't know. All I knew was what was on Jacked. And what was on, like, No Mercy and stuff.
To sum it up quickly, Rad made bad decisions as a child.
Yes.
And only watched WCW and only owned a Sega.
Yeah. I was a Sega boy. No time for that Mario. Get out of here. That's not going to last.
And probably played with Mega Bloks instead of Lego.
Like I was the Digimon guy over Pokemon. Like, everything was downhill. But yeah, and then after a couple of years, I was going through channels, random channels in like 2004, I think, 2005. And as I'm going through the channels, Mike Tenay's face just randomly shows up on one of the screens. And as I'm going through the channels, I have to immediately go back to see what the heck that was about. Because I haven't seen any wrestling in WWE in like 2 years now. And I found that was TNA. He was talking about TNA wrestling and how Impact was debuting like 2 weeks later on Fox Sports Net, I think it was.
Oh yeah, the first run.
Fox Sports 1 or whatever it's called. Yeah, and the first it was the main event. It was the only match on the show left, and it was the most random match I could ever possibly think of in this era of professional wrestling. And I was immediately like, I don't even know who the champion is right now, and I need to watch this Impact show. Which, by the way, R-Truth was the champion at the time. But,
Yes.
Yeah. But the match was, it also rhymes, so get ready for this. It was Lash LaRue versus Sabu.
The first
and me being yeah.
Oh, the first one of those impacts
But
I
me being
saw. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
I was just saying, with me being a WCW guy and seeing the tail end of ECW, this was like the greatest thing in the world for me. I had no idea what was happening.
The first of those impacts I ever saw, the first match I saw was like Raven versus Johnny B. Bad. And he was wrestling as Johnny B. Bad, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Wow.
Those were some fun times.
Oh, yeah.
One personal dream match, Stepdads versus Shark Boy and D-Ray 3000.
Yes.
Oh, you might be able to make that happen. Have you seen him as the Fro Gun?
Yes.
Okay. That might be a possibility. All right. So how did you two? Oh, go ahead, guys.
I was gonna say 3 count. Another one of our
Rock and Rave Infection.
If it's a
If it wasn't for Lance,
if it's a weird tag team, we would wrestle it. Every one of Buff Bagwell's tag teams is on the list.
Oh,
American
Vicious and
Male.
Delicious.
Oh yeah.
Vicious and Delicious,
Yes.
baby. Let's do it. Shawn Michaels and God, dream match. We'll end there.
How did you two meet?
So we met through backyard wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, weird thing, like everyone, when they talk about backyard wrestling, they're always like, "Oh yeah, we had like our group of guys that we backyarded with, and blah blah." blah. And it never goes further than that. We had like a full cult of like we had a forum, which was run by at the time a guy who runs promotions down in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And we all met, like a whole bunch of us would post our stuff on it. I don't even know how we all found it. People just randomly stumbled across this forum of backyard wrestling. It was on the
first page for backyard wrestling if you Googled it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, a lot of guys started on this site called The Link, Dan McCabe, those guys. And there was a small migration to WrestleFigs.com, which had a backyard forum. And then it went to the GBYW and the Global Backyard Wrestling Nation. And then we met on that from posting. I would post my stuff from Jersey. I got into backyard with a lot of the guys that I used to go to Jersey All Pro Wrestling shows with. And then Rad was out in Vegas at the time and was doing stuff out there, and we all would just post, and Rad was like the kayfabe general manager of Backyard Wrestling. So he was like this name that you spoke of, but like wasn't a real person. Like we'd be like, oh yeah, Rad's, he made a ruling, but like it was like in jest a lot of the time because he was across the country. And then we started having these big shows, and Rad would come out, and we met at one of those. And then I was out in Vegas, and we filmed a bunch of stuff out there. And that was kind of how we became friends until Rad moved to the East Coast.
Yeah, so before that, I was just like people didn't know if my character was me or not because all they ever saw was me in character, just as this random like guy in the distance saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. And they would make angles out of it. And I would find out later, they'd be like, oh yeah, this guy said you made a non-title match. And I was like, cool, all right. And it worked out. And so I was like a backyard wrestling personality. And by that point, I had already done a little bit of wrestling training on the side, but I wasn't super serious about becoming a pro wrestler. So this was just like me having fun. And like he said, he came down to Vegas. We filmed a bunch of stuff for like some social media episodes of backyard wrestling clip shows and stuff like that. And we tried to make it into a feud. So we were hosts of the show that ended up feuding and having a match. And I flew out from Las Vegas to Pennsylvania, which wasn't the first time I'd flown out from Vegas to have a wrestling match. And we had a great time. We accidentally became the main event because it got rained out right after us.
And we kicked the shit out of each other and became friends.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Dropped him right on his head like 4 times.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But we were, even at that point, we were still very safe. And we were trying to actually tell stories in the ring and stuff like that. Like we were like, trying to have matches.
Our backyard fed, most of them had rings. A few had a base. The base was super comfortable, but base is just a ring without ropes, essentially. I'm sure you know well about that, but for the people listening who don't. And then like a lot of us, we would travel around and we all had rings in different people's backyards, and we would do shows. And
just to give you an example, at the time I was the GBYW United States champion, which sounds like a generic mid-card title. I lived in Las Vegas. I won that title in Salt Lake City, Utah, and now I'm defending it in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So I was actually trying to make it a national title, even though there was no money or advertising or anything.
Way later on, I became the Global Backyard Wrestling Nation X Division champion and actually defended the belt in the UK. So that's a real thing. I'm going to just leave that there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
I don't know if you guys knew, but I was a Link guy. I was on the Link, and I got to...
Yes.
And I got to go around, and you're right. We got to go a lot of places that, for backyard wrestling, sounds dumb, but we were wrestling in rings. I'm based out of upstate New York. I used to wrestle in New Bedford, Massachusetts, which seemed like every weekend. I got to do Connecticut. I even flew out to Vancouver to be with the VCW boys. So yeah, I well know.
Yeah, I went out to the UK at one point. I wrestled with a lot of guys out there: Tim Lee, Sam Jude, Ashley Dunn, friggin' Pyro, and Dave Williams. That was awesome. And then, aside from that, like I've wrestled in pretty much every state on the East Coast doing backyard stuff. Mm-hmm. The one advantage I will say that is unfortunate the Link didn't have.
Oh, you guys still there?
Oh, you were here.
Yeah, you were.
Okay, sorry. I thought it cut out for a second. I got all nervous. But yeah, you guys doing the GBYN, that was a little after I ducked out, and I kind of regret that because I feel like I would have made a whole lot more friends and had a lot of great times.
The people who are in pro from the GBYWN is dozens. It's so many people.
I genuinely believe every promotion we've ever wrestled for, at least one person we've known, sometimes have wrestled already back in those days, is in the locker room. Almost every single one. And we're talking anywhere in the Northeast, Rhode Island, New York, Massachusetts. We could go down to Florida and find people.
I think my favorite thing that ever happened was the time that we randomly found Chuck Taylor on Twitter tweeting about our shows in Cooperstown.
That's right.
And talking about like the most random backyard guys. And we're like, guys, you got to come look at this. Chuck Taylor's tweeting about Doc Holliday. Like, it was hilarious to us.
I remember being shown that and
Loved
just
it.
like, what the fuck? What kind of weird universe is this? Because I was saying it to
It's
to Damian Slade earlier. We come from such like. I guess a cult is the best way to put it, that there was so many of us intertwined with each other that now you can't go anywhere without someone who was in our circle of yarding that isn't wrestling somewhere or blowing up somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrestled Damian Slade in a church in Pennsylvania when he was tagging with Russell K. Best. There's a little fun one for you.
There is, and I get to talk to Russ later in the week. I'm pumped for that too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But even
Just kidding.
even someone like Mike Skyros, I used to AOL Instant Messenger Mike Skyros back in 2009 when he was just a skinny dude on a trampoline, just trying to do wrestling matches, and we would have the greatest conversations. And then all these years later, we ended up wrestling him at Warriors of Wrestling for the first time, and we had to take a picture together. I was like, I never thought I'd even meet you. I lived across the country, and here you are in the ring with me. It was nuts.
Oh, that's great, man. That's what makes wrestling beautiful, is the relationships you can make.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what was it that made you guys decide, all right, we're going pro?
A lot of it, I mean, it really ties into the last question.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was the winding down of Backyard. We kind of hit a point where we both felt we were like doing some of our best matches, and we felt better in the ring than we ever had. We felt like we had hit that point where we were like excited to take it to the next level, and then everyone else was stopping or everything was kind of seemed like it was winding down. We'd lost a lot of like the big promote backyard feds that ran big shows. People went pro, people stopped wrestling, and we kind of felt like this isn't where we want to stop. We want to keep this going. So we decided to jump and take it to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't think we were better than anybody. We didn't walk in with a chip on our shoulders or anything. Like when we went in pro, we acted like it was day one, but we did have the advantage of already taking a lot of bumps, already knowing at least the moves, how to take the moves and things. A lot of it was getting down pacing and things like that.
And crowd. Working
crowd work, yeah.
Working the boys is very different than working the crowd.
Yeah, it is. That's true. So, like you said, backyard wrestling kind of ended right before we started doing pro, but at the same time, we already known so many people that were going pro that it wasn't like we were jumping on the bandwagon. It was that we just wanted to keep the fun going. And like I said, we still wrestle people that we used to know back in the day all the time. And we're having better matches, because of it, because of the experience we have now in the pros. It's so much fun. And we still have just as much fun now as we did back then, if not more, because we get to do the Stepdads deal. And it's just a blast. It really is.
So when was
especially since we used to be different.
Yeah, right. What
Yeah.
was the first time you guys tagged together? Or when was, not what.
Do you remember? Well, I'm wondering if you remember, because I remember.
Was it in the yard?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So, all right, I'll explain.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you know, but I'll just explain it. Wade and I used to feud. We were feuding. Like I said, we had that big build-up into a street fight. It was really awesome. It was like, 60, 70 people there watching. And stuff. Like, it was such a cool thing to us to have that many people watching. And we kept having more matches. We had a hardcore match later, a normal match. Then we got tag team partners.
Yeah, we were both leaders of factions in the yard. My faction was the Stepdads in the yard. But it wasn't like the gimmick at all. It was more like it was more heel. It was literally our catchphrase was we're the Stepdads, we beat you and you hate us. And we actually became face because no one liked Rad. If you were going against Rad's team, you were automatically the face.
Yeah. Even though I feel like I was always a good guy, but
Nope.
but I looked like such a douchebag because I had the short hair. I came out in a sports jacket. Like it was what I did during my very small run in the pros.
He was backyard $1 million man on a budget.
I would like if our backyard universe was the NWA, and I was like, if like Jim Cornette was Vince McMahon of the NWA or something weird like that. But he also wrestled. But yeah, so my faction was always heel. I was told to my face there was no way you'd ever be a face, which is so weird now because
it's all we are.
Pretty much all I do, and I love it. But so we had like singles feud, tag team feud. We had tag team ladder match. So here's the thing. So our the main company, or I say company, the main backyard promotion we wrestled for was BXW.
Yep.
And
Bethlehem Extreme Wrestling.
Even though it was set in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
But they started in Bethlehem.
And the blow off to our feud, because we had wrestled so many times, there was no real way to blow it off other than to team up. So we did a strange bedfellows match where we teamed up. It was the second to last BXW show.
Okay.
Because the last one you wrestled your tag team partner.
Yeah, I wrestled Danny.
And I wrestled Tim Lee from the UK.
Yeah.
But the show before that, we teamed up and we did like the weird, awkward like handshake.
Oh yeah.
And then we kind of like made
Who did we
up.
wrestle?
It was Russell K. Best, I think.
Okay.
And
Henry?
No, I never wrestled him.
Oh.
We're not sure. I'm not sure. But we wrestled some. We have to look it up, I guess. But we wrestled somebody, and we didn't do any double team moves or anything like that. You probably slapped me in the face for a tag every time. Because you always did that. And, and that was it. And then we had our handshake, and that was it for like a year and a half.
Yeah, and then we were both in SWO for a while, doing separate stuff. And then we wanted to start doing the Stepdads Gimmick in Pro, make it a full gimmick. And the first time we did that was at a Warriors of Wrestling taping. And we wrestled Everett Cross and Vincent Cade. And favorite story about that match is Vincent Cade and RadleyBelmont are setting up for a move.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And I got it. I like telling it. Watching it from the apron was way funnier for me.
Oh my god.
You see a miscommunication happening, and you could see them talking, and you could see Rad setting up to take a Russian leg sweep, and then all of a sudden Vincent Cade just picks him up and backdrop drivers him on his head.
Oh man!
And he goes, "I didn't hear you," and I panicked. Because the best response to, when someone's expecting a Russian leg sweep, backdrop driver is always like the next thought.
I mean, I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I think his exact words were, "I did hear you, and I still panicked." But he was very nervous, and he never tagged in Everett Cross during the entire heat.
He worked like an entire 8-minute heat by himself.
Even when I called for him to do it, and Everett called for him to do it, he never did. So I'm going for a tag, and he cuts me off, and I said, "Russian leg sweep," and I got myself ready for it because we're all green, and he just like Japanese Tokyo Dome backdrop drivers me on my head. Everyone looks like I'm dead. Luckily, because of my yard experience, I'm used to taking ridiculous bumps.
Yeah,
so I protected myself.
This was in front of no paying fans.
It was in front of Mr. Grimm and Jake Logan, who gave us some bookings later. So there's that.
Yeah, we got weird bookings out of that.
Yeah, but
I'm dying.
Yeah, that was also the last time I ever did a standing poison Rana. So
yeah, don't do that anymore.
I don't do that anymore either.
So what made you guys decide that you wanted to do the Stepdads Gimmick together as a team?
So the story is we went to a Pro Wrestling Magic show, and I was getting really frustrated with the gimmick I had at the time. I was the Sin City Saint because I lived in Las Vegas for 16 years, but I don't drink, I don't gamble, I don't smoke. I really don't like that stuff, although I'm not against anybody drinking or smoking or anything like that. I'm do what you gotta do. That's what I say. But I personally don't do that stuff. And I was in a gimmick where I had to act like I was drunk, and I had to, it was just not fun for me. Wade was doing
Kodiak Krueger.
The Kodiak Krueger, where he was deathly silent in the ring, which is
killing people.
Yeah, the killing of people is cool, but he's not a silent person.
I'm Italian from New Jersey. I talk a lot.
So we were just getting slowly frustrated and starting to get burnt out if we didn't change something. And I'm all about changing stuff when it needs to be changed. So
we're still doing that stuff
yeah.
over in other places, but we're like on the side. We're like, we'll go do this taping. Evercross invited us, Ness invited us, and we were like, let's go try the gimmick out. And it was super bare bones. We took some promo pictures in my house.
The main thing is we decided to do the gimmick because we saw this random tag team match. I won't even get into it.
Well, the team we saw was a team called Massage Envy.
Yes.
They don't tag anymore, to my knowledge.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
But they were doing... Yeah, their gimmick was hilarious. And they did so little wrestling. It was just fun. I don't remember who won that. It was a triple threat tag. And we were like, I don't remember who won that match. All I remember is that those guys were hilarious. I was like, we could make this work.
Yep.
So we decided to take the gimmick and actually run with it. And so far, it hit. We were both still so new at working with crowds and working in front of people. It hid so many of our deficiencies behind a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've just kind of expanded it and grown with it over the past few years.
Well, you guys are definitely knocking it out of the park. You guys are definitely a great team together. And I love how well you pair with each other.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
I think we're on like second base after a ground rule double, but hopefully out of the park will come.
So, did either of you guys have a stepdad growing up?
No, absolutely not. I have a real dad, and he's great.
I had a real dad who wasn't so great, but he was very dad-like. So
I had a step grandpa, but never a stepdad.
I also had a step grandpa. He was a really cool dude.
Both my grandpa and step grandpa were great, but they also both had dementia, so they were like kind of like the same grandpa at that point. They also both had the same wife, and I think she had something to do with it, but I can't prove that either way. But lucky for them, we both got to forget her, and I did not.
Oh, what a way to put it. Now, as you guys were saying, you started out as singles guys when you first went pro. How would you say that being a tag team wrestler is more difficult than being out there by yourself?
It depends. It's more difficult in the planning stages, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But physically in the ring, I'd say it's easier. You have someone else in there to rely. You have extra people to rely on. There are more moving parts, which can make it frustrating if everyone's not on the same page. But I really think having a partner in there, you could get in the ring and look at each other and go and just call a move out loud, because you're not, there's no logic that says you guys are thinking the same exact thing. So like I could literally look at Rad and be like, let's do a double suplex, like on the fly. And I could say it out loud. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Plus I never take the heat. So the matches are very easy for me physically.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. In the yard, I was kind of known for taking a ridiculous beating and just coming back from it. So why not continue the trend, right?
I will say this too. I tagged a lot in the yard. I tagged way more than I did singles. And I think because of it, I like matches with more moving parts and more people to play with, because you can plan breaks in there. Like even like a 4-way scramble, you could plan breaks for everybody. And I worked a lot with a guy named Danny Devine, who was a Connecticut guy. And he had one of the best steel trap brains and minds for wrestling, and coming up with ways to chain everything together and tie spots together and make every spot into a sequence, where working with him in the yard for so long, I had to remember so much, especially because we were heels most of the time and I was in the ring a lot. I had to remember so much, and I would memorize the entire match, his parts and my parts, just in case. And it's really helped me carry over into tag.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a good high school education when you go to college is how I feel about a lot of my yarding stuff.
And a lot of my stuff was singles. I did do some tag with a guy who now wrestles as Doug Mosa.
Yeah, Dougie Mosa.
Dougie Mosa.
Oh, Champagne Doug!
Excellent guy. Yeah. He's awesome. He still is awesome.
I gave Doug at least 3 or 4 concussions in the yard.
In my when I interviewed Dan from Pizza Party, I said that Doug's one of those dudes I love who I feel like doesn't get shown off enough.
I love Doug. I wanted Doug to go pro for the longest time. Doug was my travel buddy for a lot of yard shows. He would come down from Long Island and we'd meet here and then drive up to like Cooperstown or out to Allentown for shows.
To team with me. So it worked out.
And our funny thing was a random throw in. We had another guy who traveled with us like 3 or 4 times. It's my favorite thing to tell. I call him the best yarder that never was. His name is Alex Coughlin, and he's in New Japan. He's one of the New Japan like dojo guys. He used to ride with us to yard shows, and he never yarded, but he would come like learn and bump in the ring. And I remember helping him learn like his first bumps, and the dude's in fucking New Japan now, and it blows my fucking mind.
Oh my God. That was like growing up. My dream was always to wrestle for either New Japan or All Japan. And after my knee got wrecked, I couldn't wrestle anymore. But when I saw Zayn getting booked for New Japan in America, and I realized I wrestled him at the Milliken in New Bedford in like 2007, I'm like, fuck, man, life's weird as shit.
Yeah,
you ain't kidding, man. I was the evil manager for the match, Zayn's last yard match, which is so weird now. Yeah. But
I'm still sad we never. My favorite almost was stories in yard was my yard fed tried to book Larry Sweeney to come teach us stuff and also like wrestle on our yard show.
That's so awesome.
And we just didn't have the money at the time.
And I bet you,
but he's like he would have done it.
Oh yeah, I actually was lucky enough to meet Larry a few times when I was working ring crew for IWS in Montreal in 2006. And anytime he was at a show, he knew I was a yarder, and he had no issues sitting down and talking to me about wrestling and like giving little bits of knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of the greatest dudes, and it's
great. Dude.
I
met him at
go
a few
ahead.
times.
Yeah, the wrestling world lost a big piece when they lost Larry Sweeney.
Yeah, I don't know. Here, I'm going to throw a couple random yard names out for you and to see if you know them. The guys, the reason I never would have gotten into yard and pro if it wasn't for, and this is a very random selection of names, B Cube, Tommy Flambeau, and Renegade.
Okay, B Cubed, I wrestled in Cooperstown once. Tommy Flambeau, now here's, I guess this is where it kind of becomes a sad story. One of the last shows I did was a little after my dad died, and I was talking with Tommy about trying to double up on some shows I had missed, or that I'd worked the previous year and wanted to like do it again. And he said, if you come to this show, because I had always wanted to work him, he's like, we'll work the match together, we'll make it happen. And I felt like that was going to be probably one of my bigger moments in just, you know, in really getting people to get behind me. And losing my dad like ruined me, and that was the real reason I dropped off of the face of the earth of the backyard scene. Was it just took me forever to get over losing him, and by the time I thought I was ready to wrestle again, like you were saying earlier, half the dudes you know who do it don't. And that was when you guys were getting like, you know, picking up steam, and I was like, I don't know anybody, and I was afraid to reach out.
Yeah, the first big super show I ever went to was one of B Cube's friggin' WrestleFests. So I met him. It was such a mix of names because like Anarchy Andy was there, but like Marcus Santafonte was there, and like so you had this mix of like Arbo and Sean Phoenix, and like it was such a weird mix of guys. That was like old generation, new generation. So I kind of came in right on the cusp of that. Deppen was there, and he wrestled friggin' Soy Boy. It was such a weird time. But Kale, I'm pretty sure I had Flambeau's last yard match was against me, Zachy Strutz, who is a Pizza Party guy, and Oswald Project was the last, I think my last match, but also I think it was Flambeau's last match in the yard.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh.
Like for me, like my first super show, I went all the way to Utah for, and I wrestled Everett Cross there. And he's from New Jersey, so he flew out from New Jersey to wrestle me in Salt Lake City. But then the second show I went to was in Indiana. Still live in Vegas. Went to Indiana to manage on Phoenix, and I wrestled myself as well. Not and wrestled myself, but I wrestled as well. And I was also supposed to wrestle Matt Nix that day. And on the day of the show, the card got switched around.
You wrestled Olsen?
I ended up wrestling a bunch of other guys,
Okay.
but I was supposed to wrestle Matt Nix, and so it blows my mind that he's now doing the freelance wrestling stuff. And I'm always like, we gotta have that match, man. You still owe me a match. You said next time. Well, when's next time, bro? It's been 10 years, 11 years. Let's go.
That's right. It's time to make it. You guys got to get out to Chicago.
Yeah.
One of my early and only dream matches in the yard was Twisted Outcast, which is Craig Mitchell. So
Wait, that was
I'd love to
Craig?
do that one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even a big fan of Austin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The more you know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where,
He looks good, right?
where
He's put on a ton.
I'm like, why does that person seem so familiar? And then now it's all pieced together. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck, man.
It's all crazy.
Small world, right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
almost had Will Ospreay come wrestle our yard shows, but the ring was too small, so he didn't want to come.
When I think about the fact that I got to...
It's like, here.
Oh, go ahead, guys.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's when I think about how I wrestled people that wrestled Will Ospreay back in the day. It's also one of those weird connections things like, what the fuck? Like, what life could have been?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. I think we're both 2 degrees from Will Ospreay. We wrestled people that Will Ospreay wrestled like a month earlier. But we never wrestled him because he didn't like our 14 by 14 ring. And, it's understandable, I guess. But
Will Ospreay wouldn't say hi to me when I was in the UK, and I'm still upset about it. I was all the way in the UK, and we went to
tell the story.
we went to this festival that like Ospreay was wrestling like outdoors at, and he was like in a tent, like preparing for the match, and we just wanted to say hi to him because like we had talked to him online and on the forum and stuff, and he blew us off, and I'll never forgive him for it unless he like says hi to
And
me.
you had a
or something.
WWE employee with you, too.
Yeah, fuck Murph though. Murph doesn't count.
Oh, all right, guys. You know the deal with Anchor, so I got to pause this for a second, and then we'll be right back into it.
Absolutely, we're not going anywhere.
All right, that actually was probably just a super brief pause for you guys, but so we'll try to find my next question. I'm so unfucking prepared. All right, you guys are known for your ability to mix.
Okay, there was a lot to happen.
You guys are mostly known for your ability to mix comedic elements along with your solid wrestling skills. How much thought goes into these ideas to fuck with the people you're wrestling?
Rad, I'll let you answer that, but first I'd like to say that we're not mostly known.
Yeah.
Definitely not the case.
Listen. In my intro to this,
Like to this day, I
was just saying, in my intro to
What's
this
that?
episode, I was saying that you guys are probably one of the faster rising indie tag teams in the Northeast, because I feel like there isn't anywhere around here where if I mention you, they're like, oh yeah, we know the Stepdads.
We're like an escalator that was working for a while, but now has broken,
Yeah.
and you have to walk the rest of the
we
way
are
up.
now stairs.
Also, just to throw it out there, as far as being known goes, this is my favorite random knowing of the Stepdads. So this goes back to Backyard a little bit,
All right.
but we haven't been in a locker room with this person to confirm it yet.
Oh, that. Go ahead.
But apparently,
I'll tell you my favorite after yours.
apparently AR Fox is the biggest Radley Belmont / Rad Hazard backyard wrestling champ fan out there. Like AR Fox used to watch our stuff, and he told multiple people who don't know each other and have both reported back to us that AR Fox is the biggest Rad Hazard fan of all time, which is the funniest thing in the world to me.
Yeah, in both accounts, people in different states, they're like, so we're in the locker room, and he's just like, you ever seen this Rad Hazard guy? He does the stupidest stuff. He's awesome. I love it. Never met him. No idea if he would recognize me in person.
So someone If anyone's listening, book us on a show with AR Fox just so we can prove this once and for all.
Stepdads for CZW.
Oh God, we've thought about that before. And honestly,
Yeah.
if we ever went to CW, all I'd want to do is come out to the ring like
We'd have to be heels.
right to censor style
Yeah.
with like a swear jar, and then just have Schlack come out and murder us.
Just stand.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Our giant would be standing in the ring, waving at the crowd as they throw shit at us until someone comes out to murder us, and
Yes.
it's over. But my favorite is when we're at True Wrestling. We're defending the True Wrestling tag team belts. We're about to go out for a tables match, and so we're in gear. We're walking down the hall. It looks like the Madison Square Garden entrance when you're walking down the hallway. You're about to go out the entrance door. We're doing that, and just standing completely alone, leaning against the wall, is Orange Cassidy.
Like it looked like it was in Gimmick.
Yeah, it looked like he's in Gimmick. We've never actually, outside of a handshake and a hi, we've never had any interaction with him at all. And so we got our belts. We're just going through the match in our heads, and we're walking. And as we walk by, he stops us. He goes, "Hey, you guys are Stepdads?" And it's we're like, yeah, we're the Stepdads. He goes, "You guys are fucking funny," and then just walks away. And that might be the greatest moment of my wrestling career.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever going to get topped. It's definitely not going to get topped by the time that Rad went fist bump a handshake.
No.
From my favorite wrestler of all time.
Oh my god, no!
We were. This will be quick, and then we go back to actual. So we were in a locker room with Rock and Roll Express, who are Rad's favorite tag team of all time.
That's why I wanted to be in a tag team. Even when I went pro, I figured tag team's the way to go because I love the Rock and Roll Express.
So they're putting their hands out to fist bump everybody because they have their new Hall of Fame rings on. So they're fist bumping everybody with the rings. And was it?
It was Ricky Morton. Of course it was Ricky Morton. Of course.
Ricky puts his hand out for his fist bump, and Rad just reaches out for a handshake and shakes his fist bump.
Now, there was a... To be fair, there was a line in front of me, so I couldn't see their hands. And I shook everyone's hand. Tommy Dreamer and anybody else that was there didn't think about this ring situation. So I'm nervous, of course. It's Rock and Roll Express. I'm big fan. I'm nervous right now just thinking about it. So, yeah, I go up and I practically paper his rock, but I don't win. I lose terribly.
He stick shifted him.
Now, now Ricky is okay. I call him Ricky. Is that right?
Consummate professional.
Mr. Morton
just keeps his hand out there, just staring at Rad until Rad puts his hand out for a fist bump, fist bumps him, and walks away.
didn't give me a weird eye or nothing. It was just like happens all the time, kid, kind of thing. And I fist bumped him, and I walked away, and that my life was over.
That's my favorite locker room story, just because it's like it couldn't have happened in a funnier way. It's like literally, we do so much rock and roll stuff in our matches that we watch them a lot. So to watch that happen was just so funny from the side.
Oh, that's fucking great. That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
A rock and roll Express, I'll never leave there, that's for sure.
But to go back to your original question, what was it?
It's about how famous we are.
No, it was how much do you guys think about your plans to fuck with your opponents?
Oh, I mean,
yeah.
We've hit a point where I think we've hit a sweet spot of knowing when and where and how to do it. Just to go a little behind the curtain, it's like in a match structure, we will almost never do any comedy stuff after the heat starts. So like once the heels take over, comedy time's over and we're serious.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't make sense for us to be trying to fuck with them once that they're kicking our ass. So it's a little just like inside our actual minds, like no kayfabe to it.
Yeah.
We always try to put that in there, but usually the first half of the match is like, if it's not a match that has a build up where we're like mad or in a feud, or we always try to have the first half be like kind of us getting under our opponent's skin until they finally get fed up with it.
Yeah, we enjoy starting with comedy whenever we can and whenever it's appropriate, because the fact that when the heels take over, it's such a sudden change that we've been in front of crowds that do not like our shtick. Or they're just kind of like, who are these goofs? I don't buy them, that kind of thing. So when everything hits the fan and it gets serious, whether they like us or not, they get engaged. And that's what we want in the match, especially when I tag you in and you start running like a madman into everybody. It always gets the biggest reaction because of that sudden change in pace.
Yeah, it's a very common story structure for us to go with like the funny, the heat, and then just like the back and forth until the finish. It's just it seems to work for us for now. We do mix it up when the situation calls for it, but that's just kind of an insight into how we think about putting a match together.
I've been known to start a match with a suicide dive, so
yeah,
and then go from there.
It's one of those things too. It's like, how do you go back to funny once you've done serious? Like you kind of always got to be building. It's the same reason. Like I always, it's harder for us to be, if we're later on a show, you'll see less comedy out of us because the fans have less of a tolerance for fucking around. They've seen so much now. They don't want to be like, oh, these guys in the semi-main are dicking around. Like, they don't want that most of the time.
Yeah, it depends on the company, but that's usually how it goes. And luckily, nowadays, we're a little more experienced. We can actually do some cool stuff in the ring. And recently, we've been doing a little funny haha mixed in with our wrestling. Although, like Colt Cabana kind of deal. So
yeah,
it's still serious, but funny, if you know what's going on.
Yeah, whereas the comedy used to be a way to hide the fact that we couldn't wrestle, now we've added the comedy to our actual wrestling ability. I mean, we still can't wrestle, but we hide it better.
Now, going inside baseball again, you're saying how we like mess with our opponents and stuff. I do have a tendency to say random things when I'm getting beat down. So there's been times where somebody, for instance, will be like choking me, or they'll be pulling my hair, and I'll scream out, "Not my beautiful locks!" And that person might maniacally laugh to save himself.
Yeah, we've actually had guys like crack up and then like hide it by like turning it into like a maniacal heelish laugh.
Yes,
we constantly say stuff when things like that only the other person in the rig can hear, just to mess around with them.
I'll tell you right now, if you put us in the battle royal, we're not responsible for what we do, because
usually a lot of times it involves, if we're in the corner getting stomped, we will try to steal people's shoes right off their feet.
I have been known to try to steal shoes. I've been known to. We both did a battle royal once where we ran in and all we did was quote the room as loud as we could over and over again.
Yeah. I occasionally, if someone is in a rumble and being unsafe, I will run in there and whip them off the ropes and then walk away.
The most passive aggressive way to get rid of somebody is unsafe.
The most passive aggressive way to tell someone they're being a dick is to make them look really stupid. Run forever or stop for no reason. What are you going to do? You lose both ways.
Yeah. Because if you're being that much of a jerk, I'd much rather embarrass you in a simple way than like stiff you back or something. That's not professional to me. I'd rather you make yourself look like a fool if you're gonna, do something unsafe to me.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's a fantastic answer.
So yeah, anytime, any battle royals, we're ready.
Yeah, if you ever want us to ruin your battle royals, feel free to ask.
Let's do it.
Now, despite what you guys might think, I feel like you guys are starting to carve out a name for yourselves around here. Would you attribute that to anything besides you guys just being fine, upstanding gentlemen?
Yes. What? The fact that you were laughing as you said that means a lot. I think you're right to laugh when you say that sentence.
I would say the biggest reason we've started to chisel a name out for ourselves is that I bring the chisel with us to the shows, and I use it liberally, usually in bathroom stalls. So yeah, but, promoters, call us for a good time. But it's mostly, honestly, it's just the fact that we show up. We are guys who are reliable. Like, I literally did a show earlier this year where the next day I was in the hospital. I shouldn't have wrestled that night, but we show up. That's stupid, and I don't recommend it. But we're there. We're guys who are like, look, we're not the MVP of the baseball team, but we are the guys on that team down the depth chart a little bit, who's going to keep the locker room light. We're the glue guys. That's what I would contribute it to. There's a lot to be said for just showing up with a good attitude and being fun to be around. It's literally half the battle. Mm-hmm. People don't want to book you if you're a dickhead.
Like, yeah.
So that if we can show that, even if we have a bad match, at least they know that we can control that. Sometimes you can't control a bad match. Sometimes stuff goes off the rails. Yeah. But we can control being fun to be around. And then we do try to go out and have good matches.
Yeah. We pride ourselves in being really genuine in and outside of the ring, because I mean, I don't want to be a character all the time. I don't want to act fake and super, overbearing and all that kind of stuff. So we're just ourselves. Like, we'll say stuff to each other, and a fan will hear it and be like, "Oh, that's those stepdads again." And I'm like, I'm just being myself, but we're so close to our characters.
The gimmick is mostly just us.
Yeah,
it's turned up to an obnoxious level.
Like,
and I mean, it's not even that far turned up. Like, if I go to Target with my girlfriend, she's like usually fed up with me about 10 minutes in, because I'm like trying on different shit or like embarrassing the hell out of her by making jokes or whatever.
Same with my girlfriend. I once told her, I was like, "You're dating someone really weird." She said, "You're not weird. You're just whimsical."
What I was like,
"What, whimsical? Like Willy Wonka? I'm Willy Wonka?" And she never went any further than that. So I'm whimsical.
All right, now you guys have been known for allowing other wrestlers. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, to add to that, we did. There was a point like where we started really traveling. We did have a fire lit under us, because there's times where we get really fired up because people look at us as like just comedy guys, or that we can't wrestle, or we were in a locker room one time, and this is like the most fired up I've ever been for a match. We were booked on a show, and someone's like, right before we were about to go out, one of the people back there was like, "Well, if this match sucks, I didn't book it," because he booked the rest of the show, but not that match. We were like a showcase match, and we went out and had match of the night because we were fired up. Like, we wanted to go out there and prove. And we got the biggest. It was our debut. We got the biggest reaction on the show, and we've gone back multiple times since then. So like, there is that fire in there of like, we want to be known for not just being goofs. Because when we started this out, we thought we were just going to be jobbers. Like, we were like, we'll be fun jobbers and have fun with it.
The whole idea of having this gimmick was, what is something we could relate or at least translate to the crowd as fast as possible before we get in the ring and like the Road Warriors beat the hell out of us and pin us. And I was like, well, we could wear sweaters and have like bathrobes and pipes and stuff, and people get the gimmick, and we can say like one thing before we get destroyed. And luckily we were able to do more than that over time. But that was the whole idea. What could we do fast enough before we just get jobbed out? But also relating to backyard wrestling, I hear, and I'm not going to say names, I hear a lot of people go, "Oh, that show is like 2 hours away. That show's 3 hours away. I'm not going to that show. That show is 4 hours away." We've traveled so much, even in backyard. I used to drive 4.5 hours to backyard shows all the time. I used to fly across the country for backyard shows all the time.
Doing the drives is a legitimate state of mind for us. It's a motto for us. Stolen from Uncle Bob Evans.
That's right. Yeah.
It is distinctly a thing we try to live up to.
And luckily, he approves it, so we didn't steal it. We're just borrowing it for now.
Yes.
But so like for us, that's normal, a long trip like that. And other people don't seem to want to do it, so that's a spot they miss out on.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. We try to get people involved, you know that. But, we'll take what we can get as long as we can.
Yeah.
That's actually my next question is, you guys are known for letting other people join you along for the drives, wrestlers, and even if they're not booked for the show, you tell them to make the drive and make an impression. What made you start, reaching out to people like this, and has anything crazy happened because of it on a drive?
Well, like, Bob Evans is the one who started doing Do the Drives on Facebook, so it was kind of a thing we borrowed from him. But it legitimately started because we saw how many opportunities were out there if you just get out to a show and network. Like I said, half the battle is showing up. You can't be booked if you're not there. Mm-hmm. And that card is subject to change, and it changes a lot. So if you're there, you could end up with a great booking or a really good match to put on a resume. When we were doing Warriors of Wrestling tapings, we met so many just by like staying there and hanging out the whole time. You talk to people who are from so many different places, and it gets you in with this place, and then that gets you in with the next place, and then you have this string of connections where by wrestling Mike Skyros in one place, it could get our foot in the door at Immortal or Test of Strength or blah, blah. And then it just keeps growing from there if you just keep being someone that people want to be around. We're willing to put in a good word for you.
I mean, fun fact, my first match in front of a live crowd, I was booked maybe an hour before the show because I was helping set up the ring. I had no plans to wrestle that day. I brought my gear, of course, but I had zero confirmation I was wrestling at all. And one guy bailed, and I wrestled the opening match.
And our first booking in front of a live crowd was because we met Mr. Grimm at a Warriors taping, and he got us booked on a show up in Rhode Island, and we took the drive, and we ended up having our first pro match.
Yeah.
And a little kid in the crowd called me a cuck when I went to high-five him, and that's what, then it's been all downhill since there. That's actually my favorite story in the history. This is very quick.
Yeah,
It's our first ever match in front of a live audience. We're faces. The heels have been out there berating the crowd for 5 minutes. We walk through the curtain. There's like 15 people out there. I go to high five the first kid I see, and the first fan I ever go to high five in my wrestling career, the kid looks me in the face and goes, "Get away from me, you fucking cuck." He was like 8 years old, and I will never forget it. And I hope that kid, I hope he's adopted. I hope someone already told him there's no Santa. Like, I wish him nothing but the worst in life.
Now, as a little redemption, was about a year and a half later, we were at a House of Bricks show
In Massachusetts.
And that kid and his father was there, and we had two great matches that night. We wrestled the Middlesex Express. If you haven't seen them, they're awesome.
And that kid and his dad just kept trying to boo and like boo us the whole time, and they kept getting drowned out by cheers, and that was like a little redemption moment there.
Yeah, and that was our debut at that company too, so that felt really good.
Yeah, fuck that kid. Not literally, don't do that. But like,
I'm sorry you're gonna have to edit this episode.
I don't edit shit, man. This is Mid-Atlantic being taped in '85. It's all the tape.
I love it.
And for people traveling with us, I mean, there hasn't been that many crazy stories because not a lot of people have taken us up on it. As sad as that is to say, like, it's the last time we had someone take us up on it, there was no booking available. It was probably the first time in 10 shows where there wasn't a booking available. But we had like 10 or 12 opportunities in a row where someone would have taken us up on driving with us. They would have had an opportunity. But I'm not going to say that in advance.
Right.
Because they got to put in some of the effort here. I can't lead them all the way. Like, I can lead them to water, but I can't make them drink.
I think that's fair.
And there has to be some work in on the other side.
Yeah, I don't want just imagine the guy being like, "Oh, you've been wrestling here for 5-6 years?" Yeah, someone just got me a gig. No, they want to say, "Yeah, I did the drive. I did it all." You know, they got a little self-respect here. You know.
Yeah.
But we always have an available seat. We're inviting anybody. Anybody wants to come. If you're a wrestler, if you're trained, you know, you have no idea how many people. As we get to the show, they're like, "Did you happen to bring anybody tonight?" They just assume we're going to bring somebody, and half the time, I think more than half the time, our seats are empty, and it sucks. You know, we want to give this opportunity to people because that's how we got these gigs.
Yeah.
That people lended an ear to a booker here and there, or invited us to a show, and we, you know, like that's how wrestling works. That's how it's fueled. Is just making the shows, you know.
And then we see guys on like Facebook who are like, "Man, I wish I could get out there more," and I'm like, what are you doing? Just do it.
Amen. All right, guys. So obviously we've been cut a little bit short in this year so far. But do you have any goals for 2020 if the nightmare ends soon, or if it goes on a little longer than expected, maybe 2021?
Right now, it's just to get back in the ring, man. It's I know that's probably a cliche answer, but like, that's definitely the big goal first.
Yeah.
Shake that rust off. Other than that, it's debuting in new places. Before this happened, we were sending out our resume to a lot of places, sending our info to a lot of places we had some good feelers out there, but I mean, it's tough right now, obviously.
Yeah.
We had to stop because you don't want to send stuff now because it just seems like a slap in the face. But that's our big thing is just we kind of feel like we stagnated in the past year of just being in the same places all the time. And not that that's bad. We like the places we wrestle. It's just we want to continue to grow. And the best way to grow is by going to new locker rooms and wrestling new people. In a lot of the places we're in right now, we've become kind of veterans of those locker rooms because we've been there for a few years. So we want to start wrestling guys who are better than us. Not that that's difficult, but better than us, more experienced than us. So we can start like feeling like we're learning in every match again, as opposed to we're 3 years in and I feel like we're wrestling a lot of guys who are a year or two in and we're guiding the match. I want to have a guy like give me advice and guide me through a match again and like learn.
I kind of want to feel like a rookie again. You know, I kind of want to feel like I have things to improve on because I know I do, and I know we do. But you know, until we have people that are way more experienced than us, it's just going to feel like we're the vets, and we shouldn't. We really shouldn't. We're only what 3 years in.
We're not vets. We just play them on TV.
That's right.
But there's something to be said about like in wrestling, years means nothing. Mm-hmm. It's all about matches and different opponents and like learning from different people. Yeah. That's the best way to get better in wrestling, and that's our main goal in 2020, 2021. Is really to just get out there and feel like out of our element again and push ourselves.
Yeah, and we're trying to be as proactive as possible. Like you said, we're messaging a lot of promoters and things like that. We're trying to get out there, trying to be as proactive as possible, because even if we get one foot in one door, it's going to lead to so many opportunities. And that's how we've gotten pretty much every promotion we're in now is because of word of mouth from someone else.
Yeah, it's all a waterfall effect.
So now we're the ones trying to be proactive and push to that. I don't know if next level is the right word, but like the more experienced matches, you know, bigger opportunities, that kind of thing, wherever they may lead. I would love to be at a place like Northeast Wrestling or Limitless Wrestling.
Black Label Pro is a big one for me. I love what they're doing out in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. I'd love to get out to freelance, like you mentioned before. 01 USA,
Northeast,
Pro Wrestling Magic, like some of those feds that have that bigger. I mean, obviously Beyond would be insane.
Oh yeah. MLW.
Yeah,
that's way up there, but.
But like anything like that has that little bit of a name value that like will get us that next, that next level is the best way to put it. But
yeah. We want to be as recognizable as you think we are.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I think that's a great answer, guys, and I do. I hope you bust out. I hope you make it to the Midwest. You know, more of the coastal Atlantic states and all that, because you guys really deserve the chance to shine. Now, would you be cool if I asked you some rapid fire questions that have nothing to do with pro wrestling?
Has anyone ever said no?
Not yet, but I'm waiting for it.
No, I'm not going to say no. It's like, I don't know if you watch Hot Ones on YouTube, but if you say no to the last dab, you're a jerk. You gotta do it.
All right, guys. What was the last song you listened to?
Because it was on in the other room before I came in here, it was probably Thomas O'Malley Cat from the Aristocats by Disney. That's a weird answer, but there it is.
Whatever El Generico's theme song is, because I just watched his match like an hour ago. One of his matches.
All right. This one's
before that. It was a cover of Tub Thumping by They Might Be Giants.
I didn't know they covered that. All right, this one's a big one to me. Grape or strawberry jelly?
I gotta go grape, but honestly, I'd probably go with orange marmalade before either.
I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna go strawberry. How about that?
I'm against strawberry. I'm grape jelly gang for life. But shout out to my wife and the marmalade. She's a fan too. What was your guys'?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead. Shoot your marmalade love.
Okay, sorry. No, I'm just saying it's the option if you're at like an old diner that has those little like postage stamp size jelly packets. Yeah, gotta go with the orange marmalade, man.
Yeah.
What was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Oh, as a kid. Oh, ooh. Ooh, as a kid. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Oh man, my favorite cartoon as a kid. Batman the Animated Series.
I gotta go with. I wore out so many Ninja Turtles VHS tapes.
That's fair.
That I gotta go with that. Although special shout outs to The Tick,
Yes.
which was a great show, and shout out to DuckTales because I love DuckTales.
Weird wild card cartoon. Sam and Max Freelance Police is the weirdest cartoon, and I love it. I just remember there's a scene where on the moon and they have astronaut helmets on, and one of them takes it off and starts breathing, and he goes, "Oh, I didn't know there's air on the moon. Those astronauts must not have the spine to take their helmets off." And the other one goes, "Oh, I'd never see that about an astronaut."
And a little later, just to throw it out there because it's one of my favorite underrated TV shows that I got into. It was only around for a season. Clone High, fantastic cartoon on MTV for a year, made by the same guys who made the Lego movies.
There you go.
All right. What is the one? Oh, Freakazoid for sure. What was the one?
There you go.
What's the one food you can't live without?
I gotta go with boring answer, but chicken. I use it in so many things. Like I use it in everything. So I gotta go with that.
Barbecue pizza.
All
I have
right.
barbecue pizza at least once every couple weeks. I need it.
All right. Due to the crazy dystopian world we are now living in, what is the one item in your shared household that you guys are running out of?
Dignity.
Hope for the future.
Talent. Running real short now.
Money is money an answer. Faith in the government.
There you go.
I don't really know. I don't have minutes on my phone anymore, so that's not a thing. I mean, we have plenty of toilet paper. We stocked up. I mean, I'm out of snacks right now. That's a problem.
Oh, that
like
does
that.
I just ran out of ice cream sandwiches, so it's not too.
Oh,
I'm currently drinking my last Pepsi. So I'm out of Pepsi after this.
oh.
Yeah, I'm almost out of seltzer too. The oldest old person answer I could have given.
That's fine. I love seltzer too. Too many people shit on it, and they shouldn't.
Not even, and I don't even mean like White Claw. I mean actual seltzer from like I buy it from Aldi, but you know wherever you get it from.
I actually get seltzer from Aldi too. I don't think it's bad. I think it's really good.
No, the tangerine is good, and the passion fruit is low key bomb as fuck.
Man, this did get into old person conversation. All right, last rapid fire question. What is the creepiest basement you have ever been in, and why?
Okay, so I have a couple of my friends from high school. One night we were staying at my friend's house, and we were putting together a pool table, like one of those like 3-in-1 pool tables. And we all stayed the night down there after we put it together. We were hanging out, and we woke up in the middle of the night to the basement door opening and someone coming down, and no one ever came down. Like, we heard a drawer open upstairs, and then the door opened, and then we heard someone come down, and no one came down. And in the morning, we realized my friend's mom was like, "Did you guys take this, like, one utensil?" And we're like, "No." It was gone. So I'm going to say that basement because it freaked me the fuck out that there was ghosts in that dude's house. Yeah, and his laundry room was scary as fuck. No one would go near it. We all felt creeped out by it when we walked past it. So I'm going to say that basement. Shout out to Andrew McAuliffe and his creepy basement.
I hope he's listening.
He's definitely not listening. He has a wife and kids and dignity.
Oh, I definitely can't beat that. In Las Vegas, nobody had basements. That wasn't really a thing. I think the first time I was in a basement, I was like 21.
Now you live in one.
Now I live in one.
My basement's not creepy.
No, it's not creepy at all. So when I was a kid, I spent the night at it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's your mom's friend's house, so we're all like visiting or something. So I went to essentially stranger's house, and I spent the night there. And when I was sleeping in the basement on the couch, I saw into their like washer dryer room, there were two red lights next to each other. And I'm like 5. So I just thought it was the Terminator. And he was just standing there watching me the entire night. And that always stuck with me. And when I was like in my 20s, I told that to my mother, and she not only did she immediately know what I was talking about, which was weird, because I don't think we've seen that person in a decade, but she apologized, so I feel better now.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being with me here. Since you guys come through the area all the time, once this end of the world scenario is over, you are more than welcome to come down to this basement and do a live interview with me, or face-to-face one at least. But I super appreciate you guys coming on. This was so fun.
No problem.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us, man. We as you can tell, we love to talk.
Yeah. Feel free to invite us back anytime. We'll talk for hours. We'll have a 7-part series, whatever you want.
You want to do a 24-hour straight podcast?
Yeah.
Is that your next goal? We'll do that.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Actually, the next thing we should do is I do a series called Watch Alones, where I just make people watch wrestling with me and, talk about it. We'll have to dig up one of the WCW all-nighters and watch all 4 hours of it.
You're going to make me watch wrestling. I'm out.
We'll watch like a New Year's Evil or something random like that.
No. I'll watch Super Bowl 7 and only Super Bowl 7.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Low-key, if you want a great watch, go watch the 6-way Lucha Scramble from Super Bowl 7, where Cyclope just yeets himself onto his fucking head on the outside.
It's gonna change your life.
It's amazing.
I will get right on that. Thank you, guys.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
See you later.
Bye. All right, guys. Thank you. That was such a fun, ridiculous episode. I love the Stepdads. Like I was saying earlier, if you just go search Stepdads Wrestling on YouTube, all their stuff's going to come up. As I mentioned before, they wrestle for Truly Independent Wrestling. All their shows are for free on YouTube. Just type it in the search bar and you'll be right on it. I really would love to see these dudes more in my area. I would love for Mike King from Immortal Championship Wrestling to really bring them in. I feel like our area would really get behind these dudes. So thank you for sticking through. If you did stick through both my episodes today for my double duty. This has been fun. This has been great. As I posted earlier, the podcast itself has now reached over 500 total listens between all episodes, and I don't even have words. I'm really thankful. So stick around. So not stick around. Go home, go to sleep, do your thing, and I'll be back tomorrow. And I can't wait for that. So thank you guys. Don't forget to follow on all the social medias and share and do all that. Always shout out to my wife Shelby for being upstairs right now with the kids and just doing everything. She's the greatest partner I could ever ask for. All right, guys. I love you all. Later.